All right, joining me now is City Councilmember Fred Durhal III, also running for mayor of Detroit this year. Thank you for being with me here at Mackinac.
Thank you for having me, Malachi.
So I want to understand a little bit more of like what kind of the stakes are for candidates this week. There's a debate on Thursday. A lot of the conversations here, you're networking, you're meeting with business leaders, you're making your case for why you should be mayor. We're very far away from the city of Detroit at the same time, and I don't know how many folks here will actually be able to vote in that election. So, yeah, I don't know. Help me understand what we're doing up here this week.
Well, I mean, I think some of the stakes is just having the ability to letting folks know how you're going to continue to move the city forward. There's no secret that our city's come a long way, and a lot of that has come through public and private partnerships and the ability to bring business as well as industry to our city. And so the next mayor is going to be charged with being able to do that. You're going to have great relationships to do that. So this is a networking opportunity. But as far as the debate is concerned, I think you get an opportunity to really see the candidates who have the experience, that have the vision to move this city forward, and it'll be live on stage. And so we're looking forward to the debate and having the ability to put our vision out there for the city of Detroit and how we plan to continue to grow the city.
What do you think is the biggest issue right now in this race? We've heard a lot of conversation about the neighborhoods, but there's a lot in that as well. But you tell me, what are you hearing from voters is kind of the top thing that they want you to address if you become mayor?
Yeah, I mean, when we talk to folks, they still are saying, property taxes are too high in the city. They talk about housing, how affordable it is, and whether that's folks who own a home or whether that's folks who rent, they talk about housing. But I would also say folks are talking a little bit more about education, and which we know has typically been the third rail when it comes to mayoral races, because as the mayor, you can't control schools, but as we're sitting in living rooms and we're talking to residents, they're talking about education, they're talking about public safety, and they're talking about property taxes. And what these are those kitchen table elements that folks really care about, that families really care about. And so what we do, we take that and we look at that and we say, in totality, they're talking about how do we build a Detroit that's for families again, right? Where families can stay, where families can work, where they can play, and where they can feel safe. And so as we're reaching out and we're putting our vision out, we've got a plan to help with property taxes. We've got a plan to help with public safety. We've got a plan to help with education, and we've got a plan to help to continue to grow the city economically and make it a place for families.
Maybe we can go through those one by one. I've heard you talk about some of your ideas around reducing the property tax burden that people face, and I think it was in the last forum I heard you say that you would want to eliminate the entire, 19.5 operating millage.
Yes.
Explain that to me, how that works.
Yeah, so we want to drop 19.5 mils at an operating millage. And the way that we're going to make up that revenue is folks who are sitting on underdeveloped land or speculating on land, we're going to charge them more taxes. Folks who are contributing to blight here in the city of Detroit, we are going to be very aggressive on how we tackle blight and charge them more.
Can we just, maybe we'll stop there for a second.
Yeah.
How do you identify those folks and actually go after? We have a process through BC. You can take people to court for blight violations and like that. Going after speculators, it feels like it might be a little more complicated. How would you do that?
Well, first of all, we know what underdeveloped land is. If it's not land that's built upon, there's no structures upon it. And I'll give you an example. We all love to go to the Lions and Tigers games, right? But there are flat lot surfaces, parking lot surfaces downtown, right? And they're generating $1 to $2 million a year. They pay about 1 to 2 employees, so we're not generating a heck of a lot of income tax from it. But yet, the property tax that they pay are lower than some homes in the city of Detroit for that flat lot surface, and considering what they're generating. And we're not trying to be unfair, but we know and understand that in order to be able to have folks who can still live in Detroit and come park in your lots, okay, we got to have you pay your fair share of taxes. We want to put more money back into the pockets of our residents. And so when we talk about speculators, not just there, and I wouldn't necessarily consider those lot folks speculators, but we'd love for them to develop on those lots. I'm talking about some of these spots in our commercial corridors. And you asked how we identify them. Every time we try to open up a new business, okay, on a commercial corridor that may, there are some areas that are not contiguous to where we're trying to open those businesses. We see it every day. The residents know it. Residents inside of our neighborhoods, they know that as well, because most of the time you see speculation, you see blight as well. So those are folks who come into our neighborhoods, they buy up tons of homes.
And they neglect them, basically.
They neglect them. But some folks have been sitting on these homes for 2 to 3 years, right? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't allow families to move in. It doesn't allow those neighborhoods to continue to stabilize. Mm-hmm. And so we want to accelerate, development. We want to accelerate rebuilding neighborhoods. We want to be aggressive, though, on blight. So folks can either develop land, get up off the land and sell it to someone else. Mm-hmm. And if you are a person that is continuing to contribute to blight here in the city of Detroit, we're not just going to slap you on your wrist. We're going to let you know that we are creating an environment where we don't stand for that.
And with that, so how do you functionally do that? Do you give someone a time frame and say, look, if you don't do anything with this vacant house within 2 years, we're going to come after you? How do you determine when somebody crosses that threshold of being irresponsible with sitting on property?
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is some of the folks have already been sitting on blight for over 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's not just blight in the residential neighborhoods. I want to be clear. We're going to be focused on not charging residents a blight tax, if that is something that we implement as part of our comprehensive tax plan. We are going to be focused on charging a lot of folks who own commercial properties and or a multitude of homes that are not owner occupied, right? And they're contributing to blight either in our neighborhoods or our commercial corridors that's not allowing us to flourish and for us to grow. And so, yes, we will say we have identified this as blight. Depending on the nature and size of the building and the project, we will give you this period of time to be able to become compliant. And if that does not happen, and we'll use the courts, 36 district courts, to also help us with that determination, then we are going to charge you an aggressive amount to ensure that this does not happen again until you become compliant. We are setting a new tone, and we're going to set a new tone for our city. Illegal dumping is not welcome. Blight is not welcome. Coming to sit and speculate on land just to wait till the property values rise so you can sell it to the highest bidder is not doing our city any good. We are trying to grow, and we're going to work to grow our population, and there are key components and things we need to do in order for that to happen.
We've heard a lot of talk about reducing the red tape, cutting red tape, to make it easier for small businesses to open up. And last week, you and the mayor and your colleagues on council announced a framework to do that. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what that would do, how it works. And I'm also curious maybe if we're a little under halfway through the year. There's a lot of time left on council. You're still kind of in a position to address problems in your official role while you're running for mayor. I mean, you potentially have an ability to pick up things that are being discussed on the campaign and actually take action on them. So I want to kind of hear a little bit more about how you're doing that as well.
Yeah, no. So what I would say is we stood at a press conference with the mayor and a couple of my colleagues and making it easier for restaurants to open in the city of Detroit. At one time, there's a permitting process where you have to do it every year and renew your license as a restaurant, which is too much. When you talk about already having a requirement for state licensing, then at the city, and you've got to come back each and every year. It is not cost efficient for restaurants to do so, but again, it's more red tape and more barriers placed on it. So we're going to work to accelerate that, as well as create a permitting process that cuts down the steps that it takes to open that restaurant, having better communications between departments, having a concierge liaison as well to folks who are starting or striving to open up a restaurant. One of the things that I'm going to do, though, we're going to expand that to other businesses. And I am, to your other question, I am working on in zoning, a couple of zoning ordinances right now that you should see in the next couple of months that help make it easier for businesses to start up here in the city. But yeah, I've said it over and over again. It's kind of catchy, but we are going to cut more red tape so we can cut more red ribbons here in the city of Detroit. That's what we're going to be focused on. I'm going to focus on continuing to do my job at council. I've been on council for 3 years, and now we've passed over 7 ordinances at the council, real good comprehensive ordinances that help our residents, that help our city. But besides the zoning ordinances, we've got a couple more in the pike that we haven't
Can
announced.
you tell us more about the zoning?
So the zoning will help with parking in the city of Detroit. As you know, right now, when it comes to businesses, there are minimum requirements for parking, which now kind of hinders some businesses opening and starting up. We are getting into, as they would say, the parking wars in the city of Detroit, which is why, no offense to those folks who are sitting on those flat surface parking lots, but I'd rather them be parking structures, because we've got to house more parking here in the city of Detroit because we're a growing city, right? But it will help with zoning in that way, and then some other things I haven't announced it yet. It's going to be a press conference, so I'm not going to get too deep into it. I'll try not to push you too much.
But are we talking about basically eliminating some of those mandatory parking requirements that businesses wouldn't have to provide maybe as much or any parking in some places?
That's a piece of it. Again, it'll be cutting more red tape and knocking down, some barriers.
Because I hear that's an issue in the commercial corridors that you talk about a lot in our focus on, that there's just a limited amount of street parking available, and to ask somebody to build a parking lot, some places it's just not feasible, and also it's just not really a great use of land to put another surface concrete lot down instead of using that some other way.
Well, and again, without getting in deep, because you're a great reporter.
Sorry.
It is going to deal with land use.
Okay.
Zoning is the zoning that we're going to be looking at is how do we make the best use of the land that we have? How do we make it more conducive for businesses to thrive? We want to become an environment that is inviting the business here in the city of Detroit, that's business friendly. That says, you can do business here in the city of Detroit. We'll help you. If you have some issues and some barriers that exist, we'll do our best to knock that down. If you need someone to kind of guide you through the process, we'll have folks there for you. And that's creating a predictable business environment here. And I think that's what we all want to do. But I know my administration definitely is going to be focused on that.
The last thing I want to talk to you about is the neighborhoods. We've heard a lot of conversation about improving quality of life and investing more in neighborhoods. But I want to know, specifically, what are the issues that you hear from residents? What are the problems that you would immediately kind of focus on?
Yeah, so we still hear again about blight. We still hear about some levels of abandonment or homes that have not been demolished as of yet. Not that many, but I think we've got to continue that path and still either rehab the ones that can be fixed or demolish the ones that can't. We've got to make sure that we, again, are addressing blight in an aggressive way. But I think one of the other things that we've got to do is create an environment and a campaign about littering as well. I get that from residents. Folks
people want trash cans.
People want right. That's right. Yeah, people.
Which sounds like a really basic thing, but
it sounds like a basic thing, but people are like, we need more trash cans. We want a campaign on littering and keeping our city clean, and we want you to be aggressive about that. And so we'll be looking to do that. We'll be looking at surveillance cameras as well to put in some of our parks. We've already started that process. We want to come into Rouge Park to kind of catch those folks who are doing that illegal dumping and bringing trash into our city. But neighborhood-wise, folks talk about public safety. And we're going to continue to focus on driving that down by investing in community violence intervention, which I've done since my time on council and as chair of the Gun Violence Task Force. But we'll also be focused on creating an Office of Violence Prevention, where we address the social determinants that lead directly to violence in our community and provide help and wraparound services for mental health, for substance abuse, kind of a one-stop shop as well, and then creating a crisis line for victims of gun violence, where 24 hours they can be able to get some assistance, so we see less retaliation that happens in our community. But folks are talking about wages in the neighborhoods as well, right? And property values and property taxes. If we don't lower property taxes here in the city of Detroit, we are going to stay stagnant. you are looking at a city that has a property tax millage over 80 mills. And our closest city in population to us is Grand Rapids, and they're over 40 mills, just a little bit over 40 mills, half of what we are. And what that is saying to us is we're not competitive enough really to attract the folks that we want to attract right now. And I don't mean business, and I don't mean in Midtown. What I mean is we want to build a Detroit that's for families again. And so the way you do that is have the ability to for somebody to own a home, but pay the property taxes that are there.
Yeah.
You have the ability to keep those neighborhoods stable by those folks who have stuck and stayed here over the years in the city of Detroit, giving them the ability to stay in their homes and prevent foreclosure by giving them a great rate that they can pay on their property taxes, right? That's going to be what we're going to have to focus on, and we're going to have to go to Lansing. And I'll tell you this, to your earlier question, we're up here. I've been to multiple Mackinac Policy Conferences, more times as a state legislator now. And what I would say is we're up here because all roads to true property tax reform, all roads to eliminating preemption, all roads to the Public Safety Trust Fund dollars, they lead through Lansing. And if you don't have the experience or the relationship, which most of the folks and legislators are up here, you are not going to be able to deliver for the city of Detroit. And so we felt it was important to be here as well, so we can strengthen the relationships that we have that are strong even more.
Is that the main kind of distinguishing point that you want people to take away when they're looking at the field of candidates, that you have relationships with the legislature, that you have that experience?
Yeah. I mean, no doubt, we are the most experienced candidate in this race. And I think we get down to the nuts and bolts. We tell folks no one has served on the state level as well as the city level. And folks are like, okay, well, you served in Lansing, you served in Detroit. Our experience can be tracked. We have a proven track record. I was the assistant Democratic leader of the House. I passed a public act in a Republican-led legislature and had a Republican governor sign my act. Right? We delivered close to $1 billion, made sure that revenue sharing didn't receive one cut, and in fact got an increase. We saved vital programs like DAPSEP, Meals on Wheels, Flip the Script. We provided $2.5 million for reading programs for Detroit public schools. We helped Wayne County test over 1,000 untested sexual assault kits, all while I'm there and on the ranking demo House Appropriations. That's the experience that comes from Lansing. And then when you translate that and you move to Detroit and see what we've done as far as create affordable housing, right? You're looking at now our pilot fast track ordinance is slated to create 1,400 new affordable housing units per year in the city of Detroit. We passed 5 auto-related ordinances now regulating how auto shops, junkyards, scrap yards do business in the city of Detroit to ensure that it's in a clean, safe manner. We introduced a procurement ordinance where you're looking at now it's easier for smaller businesses and minority businesses to contract with the city of Detroit because we don't have such a low threshold, right? And you're also looking at now how we're making it easier to do business with the city of Detroit by co-sponsoring these 2 ordinances to help restaurants, but also some zoning reform that we've got on the horizon. We are the most experienced candidate in this race. We can talk policy, but more importantly, we deliver policy results. What I would implore folks to understand is, this campaign is really important. Everybody can identify the problem. It's easy to identify the problem, but can you provide the solution? And we're here in Mackinac to let our business community know, but even some folks who are residents up here know that we're the folks that provide solutions.
Well, we can tell you're getting good at this because we're at the policy conference and we're ending on policy. So, Councilman Durhal, thank you for being with us. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I guess the just don't have